This is the Getto Free Press, and I'm George Boston Rhines. As you can see, the sign says welcome. This particular church, Serenity Church, says it's a tobacco smoke-free zone. And you're looking at the sign that confirms that it is indeed a smoke-free zone. And we believe that Valdosta and Lowndes County should be a closed government free zone. We believe that we should not be denied the right to vote and that all citizens should be treated equal. Today, I'm at Serenity Church with Minister and Pastor Floyd Rose. I have been under a criminal trespass warning for nearly 200 days. Chandler Watkins, 14-year-old girl, case have still not been reported to the general public through our local South Georgia news media. But there's another issue here in Valdosta and Lowndes County that I'm going to be sitting down here and I'm going to be talking to the senior servant of Serenity Church. His name is Minister and Pastor Floyd Rose. Brother Rose, what's on your mind today, brother? We was talking earlier. What's on your mind today?
Well, I was concerned about the last election where Sandra Tooley got 198 votes and Mr. Calvin Graham got 137 votes. And then we were all subjected to a runoff. And I didn't understand why there was a need for a runoff. And so I went to talk to Deborah Cox at the Board of Election, and she explained to me that that was not a situation that she created, that it in fact came from the city. That was a municipal problem. And so using the Open Records Act, I wrote City Manager Larry Hanson and asked him several questions. One of the questions was, who in fact introduced whatever ordinance that was that created this? When was it done? And why was it done? In his response to me, he did not answer those questions, but he did say that it was a state law that every candidate the winner must get a majority vote, which is understandable. But 198 to 137 is in fact a majority. So why was the need for the runoff? I have a suspicion, and it's only suspicion, and suspicion is that white folks did this, and they did it specifically to maintain control. Well, how would they control? Well, if you've got a runoff between a black and a white, and then the white man then will have the ability to get more money, to do whatever he needs to do to get more votes, because fewer people then will vote in a runoff than will vote in a general election. And so that's my suspicion. It's only suspicion, but it's highly placed, just like the thing about the council seat, the at-large council seat. There's no need for that.
Okay, but before we go to at-large seat, let's go back to this before we jump out. Sure. This is what the election that you were talking about is dealing with city government.
City government only.
And district, one of the districts.
It was District 1. That was, or that is currently held by Detroit White.
Right.
She didn't run. Calvin Graham ran, and someone else named Hogan. I don't.
Yes, Hogan. Yes, I know.
John Hogan.
Yes,
is that right? Yes. And also Calvin Graham and Sandra J. Tooley.
Okay, so that was city. Okay, now let's leave the city. Now let's go to what you were saying about at large. But here's the problem, Mike.
Well, we have an at-large seat. Only the Board of Education and the city council. You don't have it in the county because the county is more white than black. But in the city and with the Board of Education, you have an at-large seat, and the only person who has ever filled the at-large seat has been white. Nobody black has ever filled that position. Can they? Yes, they can, but they haven't. And the reason why that was put in was specifically for whites to maintain control. Now, how do I know that? Well, if you go back to, I believe it might have been 1983, 84, somewhere back there, when the NAACP and another civil rights group filed suit with the federal government to make sure that blacks got representation with the Board of Education and with City Council, the Justice Department, lawyers, did not have in the consent decree that they put together the at-large seat. That was not a part of it. But then there was a compromise, not by the NAACP, but whatever this other group was, headed by a Mr. Willie Heisel. It was in there, and I'm quoting him now. He simply said, well, sometimes to get things done, you have to compromise, or to bring about change, you have to compromise. Well, I don't see any reason for that compromise. I don't know why it was done, and I don't think it should have been done. And ever since then, we've had this at-large seat and have been stuck with it. Now, that can be changed in one of two ways. It can be changed, of course, by the municipal government just saying, I'm talking about the council people now saying, this isn't fair, we don't need this, and change it. Same thing can happen with the Board of Education. Do I think they're going to do it? No.
Well, let me ask you another question. In dealing, going back to the first issue that you brought up, in the national race for the presidency and for the governor, and do they have to have the same type of majority, or they have another? They'll call another election to select the president or the governor, and so
if you have the majority, that's it with the state of Georgia. That's it. The municipal people, these local folk here in Valdosta, decided to have the 50+1 vote as opposed to a simple majority.
Okay. Now, looking at it on another level, on the second issue that you brought up, if the at-large system is good here at the municipal level, then do they have, and I mean, you probably gonna laugh at me, but do they have at-large senators and at-large representatives for the state of Georgia?
No.
So
not that I'm aware of.
So
they don't have.
So what you're saying is that this may have been put in place for, as you said, to maintain.
Not may have. It was put in place so that white folks could control the Board of Education and can continue to control City Council. That's why it was done. White folks did it, and they did it for that purpose especially. That's the only reason it was done. Period.
Well, why do you think that Minister Rose, the senior pastor of Serenity Church, and I'm not being funny, y'all, I just want to make this clear where I can understand it. Why is it that in the history of Valdosta, nobody have ever challenged this, and what makes you think of this?
I read and I study and I want to know. But the charter that you discovered just outside of City Council chambers in a plaque on a wall that said in substance that the mayor and council shall make all necessary and appropriate laws for the control of free men and slaves and other things. Nobody saw that. So all I'm saying is a lot of things happen because nobody pays any attention. You just happen to pay attention to it, call it to the attention of the mayor and the city council, and reluctantly, I must add, they changed it.
Right, reluctantly changed it.
Reluctantly.
Okay.
I don't know where that plaque is now. I'd like to know.
That's what I brought to you. I asked that it be retired to the museum, so that's why I thought it should be at. I've gone over there and questioned it, but they don't have it. So my thing is, I will track it down. As we close, Reverend Rose, if you don't mind, I really would like for you to state the condition and what's happening as far as the Black Museum. Tell me a little bit on that, then we're going to close.
Well, I hope you'll take a look at it sometime.
Yes, sir.
It's a beautiful thing. We began in Africa where we were kings and queens, and we moved through slavery, post-slavery, the Renaissance, the Civil Rights Movement, the modern era, and eventually to the election of Barack Obama. There are pictures, there are plaques, there are all kinds of things that tell our story. And this is the only museum in this part of the state that's like that. And we invite people to come and look at it. All you have to do is call me at 229-444-1938. That's 229-444-1938, and I'll be glad to conduct the tour.
And Reverend Rose, do you do tours with the schools? If a school,
Yes.
Okay.
We do, and in fact, we really enjoy that. Through the Board of Education, we bring teachers and students through, and they walk through the museum. And here's something that's interesting. They get a piece of paper and a pencil, and then in each of the categories, in slavery, post-slavery, the Renaissance, the Civil Rights Movement, and the modern era, and the election of Barack Obama as the first black president of the United States, they jot down what to them is the most significant thing that they see in each of those areas or that they learn. And then at the end of the tour, they turn that into us, and then we share it with them and with each other. And also there's a mirror that we ask them to stand in front of, and then we say to them, you and your people survived the worst thing that ever happened to any people in the history of the world. And look at you. Be proud of who you are and where you came from. And finally, the tour ends with the showing of War on Our Souls. It's a 25-minute DVD depicting how we started in Africa and ended up fighting each other and calling each other names and dying for no reason at all. How we developed this whole concept of self-hatred. It's interesting. And I would encourage those of you who hear me now to just pick up the phone and call me and arrange for a tour. The tours are free. We don't charge anybody anything. And we'd be glad to take you through and let you take a look at the museum.
Reverend Rose, my final question, and I do mean this, my final question. When School Superintendent Bill Kasem denied all children at the Valdosta City Schools to listen to the 44th President's speech, and the people were outraged in this community. They attended the Board of Education in mass numbers. My question to you is...
400 people showed up.
Yes, my question is... do you have anything depicting that in your museum to let all the people that come to our beloved community know that that happened in the history of Valdosta, Lowndes County, state of Georgia?
George, you know what? That's a very good question. And it's interesting you bring that up. I think I still have that picture on the front page of the paper depicting that whole thing. But you're right, that ought to be in it. It certainly ought to be in it.
Thank you so very much, and I want to thank you for all the work that you've done. I'm not that happy about you being placed in solitary confinement over the name changing of Barber Park, but I want to thank you for all the work that you've done in this community, and I want to say it while you are breathing. I don't want to wait till your demise before I tell you that. Thank you, my beautiful brother.
No problem. God never takes you to it unless he's going to take you through it.
Thank you very much. This is the Getto Free Press, and the Getto Free Press report what others may consider, well, you know, not news. Bye-bye. We go.